I have written a question here. The question is based on the vapor compression refrigeration system. So, let us first read the question. Before solving the question, we will understand the VCRS, vapor compression refrigeration system, through a simplest cycle that is possible. Then we will come back to this question. So, let us first read the problem. A vapor compression having CO2 refrigerant operates, here it is written operates between, the pressure limits has been given, the liquid in the condenser gets cooled to 15 degrees Celsius before entering the expansion valve. The system is assumed to work on wet compression with dryness fraction is given. The compressor data has been given to us, volumetric efficiency is known, and the data required to be used in the problem that has also been mentioned here in this table. We have to calculate the COP of the cycle, the power input we need to calculate, and we also need to calculate the refrigeration capacity for the cycle. So now, before solving this question, let us briefly discuss about the vapor compression refrigeration system. So, I am taking the help of TS diagram. This is the entropy axis, this is the temperature axis, and this is the saturation curve. And let me also take the basic equipments involved in the VCRS. So, we have compressor, then we have condenser, this is the condenser, then we have in the VCRS we have a throttling valve, we have an evaporator, and then back to the compressor, right? Now, suppose if I have to obtain cooling, then what should I do with whatever materials are available with me? We are trying to understand how we can think of cooling using the various material behaviors which are available around us. So, one of the material, liquid and gaseous phase, this cycle is based on the change of liquid to gas, that is vapor, and vapor to liquid again. In this cycle, suppose this is the point 1, the basic cycle is being talked about, the basic VCRS. So, suppose when I am starting here, this is the point 1. Point 1 is saturated vapor. So, we already know this is saturated vapor, this is saturated vapor, and this curve is saturated liquid curve. This is saturated liquid curve. Now, point 1 is saturated vapor. So, what I am doing, we are compressing the vapor. In the ideal case, we assume isentropic compression. So, we are compressing the vapor, this is 1 to 2, isentropic compression. So, we reach somewhere here, let us say point 2. Now, up to what pressure should we compress? Up to what pressure should we compress? This depends on for what purpose you will be using this VCRS system. So, let me take an example. Suppose we are using this VCRS system for making a refrigerator. The refrigerator requires the inside of the refrigerator to be maintained like we can take the refrigerator case. Suppose this is a refrigerator. The domestic refrigerator that is used in our homes, in that domestic refrigerator, we have a freezer section. This is the freezer section. Now, if you would have observed, so there is a box like shape where you keep the trays filled with water. This is a box, aluminium box type shape. And this aluminium box type shape, if you see the surface, suppose you look at the box from the top or from this side, from below this. So this is a plate, it is called as plate type evaporator. Plate type evaporator. So this is a plate. So we have a plate here, here, here and here. And this side is hollow. So you can keep something over this. You can keep something. Now, if we see this, suppose I am observing from top. So we have the top view of this plate. So there are grooves in it. We have grooves made in it through which the refrigerant flows. So the flow of the refrigerant in the normal conventional design, conventional means the old way of using the refrigerator. In the normal conventional design of the refrigerant flows through the freezer section only, through the freezer section. And what is your requirement for the temperature to be maintained in the freezer section? Let me take a general value. Suppose we want to maintain a temperature of minus 15 degrees Celsius. Suppose I want to maintain this temperature. So if the refrigerant has to absorb heat from minus 15 degrees Celsius, the refrigerant should enter here at a temperature lower than this, right? So refrigerant entering at a temperature lower than this, let us say the refrigerant when it flows from here, it flows at, let us say, minus 25 degrees Celsius. Why lower than this? Because refrigerant at minus 25 can make a space at minus 15 and continuously absorb heat from that space. Now, if this air gets cooled to minus 15 degrees Celsius, this air will become cold and the colder air becomes dense, it goes down. So, a natural convection current is established. The air here is warmer than this compared to this. So, the warmer air will rise, the air which is continuously getting cooled here will go down. The temperature on the bottommost section is around, let us say it is 5 to 7 degrees Celsius. This is the general values that are there for the domestic conventional type, that is old type of refrigerators. So the only refrigerant flow is at the top, the air gets cooled here and that air flows down here and this air continuously circulates. So there was once a person asked me, actually there was the niece of this person, one of my friend. So the young child, because we keep ice cream in this section, so the young child had to take ice cream from this section when nobody is looking. So the child used to keep a stool and move up to this place to take out the ice cream. Now bringing the stool, standing on it, taking the ice cream. That procedure took a lot of time. So people noticed at home and they would, because the parents don't want the child to be eating so much of ice cream. So they will catch this kid. Now this kid become curious that why this freezer section is at the top. So because the kid was the niece of my friend, so the kid asked to my friend that why this freezer section is at the top. If it had been at the bottom, he would have simply came and took the ice cream. So that person knew that I deal with this subject. So that person asked me. So now if somebody asks you, you know the reason. Because the refrigerant flows from this section only, the air gets cooled. As the air gets cooled, its density increases, it becomes heavier, so it goes down. So a natural convection current can be established. If you place freezer here, for circulating the air, you will have to put a fan. So that will be an extra cost. Obviously that can be avoided. This section is for the fruits and vegetables. This temperature is suitable for them. So now we understood one thing here. Let us come back. What we were discussing? How to obtain cooling. So we have a saturated vapor. I have compressed this saturated vapor to a pressure. up to what pressure should I compress the vapor? Now, you want to absorb heat from this freezer section, you want to maintain minus 15, so you want to send the refrigerant to minus 25, right? Where you will reject heat? To the surroundings. So surrounding temperature is, let us say, 30 degrees Celsius, or let me take it to be in the summer season 40-45 degrees Celsius. This is the surrounding temperature up to which surrounding temperature can go. So if the surrounding temperature is 45 degrees Celsius, suppose, to reject heat to the surrounding, our refrigerant should flow at a temperature more than the surroundings. Let us say 55 degrees Celsius. So 55 degrees Celsius should be the refrigerant flow when it is flowing through the condenser part, which is in contact with the surroundings. So the refrigerant which you are using, you will see, for that refrigerant to change phase at 55 degrees Celsius, at what pressure the refrigerant changes phase at 55? Like water, if you want to reject heat at 100, steam H2O should be brought at 1 atmosphere, because corresponding to 1 atmosphere, 100 degrees Celsius is the phase change temperature. If you want to reject heat at 120, you should bring the steam at 2 atmosphere, right? So accordingly, if I want the refrigerant to reject heat at 55, I will see from the property tables that if I want to reject heat at 55, what is the pressure of the refrigerant that I should maintain? Suppose I got the value of pressure, I compressed up to that pressure. Now when I will cool it, so first this is the superheated region. So as I will cool the superheated vapor, constant pressure, 1 to 2 compressor, we have compressed, 2 to 3 is condenser. This is the simplest cycle I am talking about. So 2 to 3, as the refrigerant flows at constant pressure, so 2 to 3 will be a constant pressure process. At constant pressure, heat rejection takes place. So initially when the heat will be rejected, the superheated vapor will get cooled down, and further when the heat gets rejected, the vapor gets converted into liquid and the temperature remains constant, that is 55 degrees Celsius. That means you can be above surrounding conditions, that is surrounding temperature is 45, I have taken for an example, our temperature is 55. So you can be above surrounding because during phase change temperature is not changing, and you can continuously reject heat also. That is the benefit of the phase change process here. So we can reject a lot of heat. Now we are at 3. 3 is the entry to the, this is throttling valve. 3 is entry to the throttling valve, 3 to 4. Now let us also understand this throttling. We have a liquid, this is saturated liquid, at high temperature and high pressure. Saturated liquid at high temperature and high pressure. So what I am doing? I am sending this saturated liquid to a capillary tube. What is this capillary tube? It is a narrow tube. Narrow tube. So when we send this refrigerant to this narrow tube, entry is liquid at high pressure and high temperature. So when you send the refrigerant here, narrow tube means, in the fluid mechanics you would have studied, head loss is inversely proportional to diameter. So lesser the diameter, more the resistance to the flow, As the fluid flows through this narrow tube, there is a lot of resistance that the liquid needs to overcome. Suppose if somebody is pushing me from behind and the person is applying 10 unit force, and there is someone in front of me. So if he is applying 10 unit force, if I don't feel any resistance from nearby, I can almost transfer 10 unit force to the person standing in front of me. Due to this push, whatever push I will receive, I will transfer. But suppose I am in contact with this. Suppose there is a wall and there is high friction resistance in this wall. So I am in contact with this wall. Now if somebody is pushing me, from that force, some of the force will be utilized to overcome this friction, So the force which I will transfer to the person ahead of me, that will not be that force. That means if you take fluid flow, so the pressure at which the fluid enters, as the fluid moves forward, somebody has pushed me, that force I have used to overcome the resistance. Suppose 10 unit I got, I used, let us say 2 unit to overcome the friction, 8 unit I gave to the person in front of me, he used 2 unit, 6 unit he gave. So if we stand one by one here, 10 unit force entering from this side, when the person standing on the last will transfer that force further, that force may be 4 unit, 2 unit, depending on how many people were there and what resistance we have to overcome while transferring this force. So if suppose a liquid enters, now the liquid is getting pushed by the liquid behind is at high pressure, but that liquid has to continuously use that force to overcome this resistance offered by this surface. So as the liquid moves forward, its pressure continuously drops. The pressure of the liquid drops. Now, as the liquid is moving forward, the pressure is continuously dropping. Now, if the pressure is getting very low, then what we will get out of it? By reducing pressure, what we will get out of it? So let us see, as the pressure drops, if we take the example of the water, so if you see water, suppose the water is at 2 atmosphere, the phase change temperature, I am talking about H2O, the phase change temperature is around 120 degrees Celsius. That means at 2 atmosphere, the phase change liquid to vapor will take place at 120. 1 atmosphere, the phase change takes place at around 100 degrees Celsius. 3 atmosphere, the phase change takes place around 131 degrees Celsius. As you are increasing the pressure, the phase change temperature is increasing. As you will reduce the pressure, the phase change temperature will reduce. Suppose you have a pressure cooker, in that you are cooking something. Suppose you have cooked up dal in the pressure cooker. Generally, inside of the pressure cooker is 2 atmosphere. Inside of the pressure cooker is 2 atmosphere. You have turned off the gas. So if you listen to the advice which your mother gives you is, don't open by force the pressure cooker, let the steam go out. Steam going out will bring down the pressure. Suppose somebody is not listening to this advice, the temperature inside is 120 degrees Celsius, the pressure is, that means it was almost boiling, the pressure was 2 atmosphere. Suppose the pressure was 2 atmosphere. Now what the person did? The person who did not hear the advice, the person with force opened the lid of the pressure cooker. Now as the person opened the lid of the pressure cooker, the person brought the dal and the liquid and the vapor present in that corresponding to 1 atmosphere. As soon as you have brought the liquid inside to 1 atmosphere, so at 1 atmosphere liquid cannot remain at 120. at 1 atmosphere, liquid cannot remain at 120. Liquid cannot be more than 100 at 1 atmosphere. If you try to take the liquid to more than 100 degrees Celsius, it will convert into vapor. It will not remain liquid. It will not remain liquid. So if you have liquid at 120, pressure was 2 atmosphere in the cooker, you opened the pressure cooker, the lid of the pressure cooker you opened, you suddenly dropped the pressure to 1 atmosphere. Now you have boiling liquid at 120 and pressure is 1 atmosphere. The liquid cannot exist at 1 atmosphere at 120 degrees Celsius. So what will happen? Suddenly the liquid will try to reach the equilibrium condition. Liquid at 1 atmosphere can be at a maximum of 100 degrees Celsius. So what will happen? Liquid will suddenly flash, turn into vapor. Suddenly liquid will turn into vapor. Liquid turning into vapor will do what? So let us see the energy of the fluid. The energy is sensible energy plus latent energy plus chemical energy plus nuclear energy. Nuclear we are not interested, chemical we are not interested. Now, sensible, that can be represented with temperature. Latent, that goes as phase change. Latent energy is involved during the phase change. Liquid to vapor, vapor to liquid. Total energy will remain constant. Total energy will remain constant. But what will happen? When you have opened the lid of the pressure cooker, if somebody, I hope nobody has among you has done that, but if somebody has tried to open the lid of the pressure cooker by force and exposed the boiling dal to 1 atmosphere, it would have suddenly come out. Why? Because the entire liquid wants to change into vapor. At 1 atmosphere, 120 degrees Celsius, H2O cannot exist as liquid. At 1 atmosphere, if you see on the TS diagram, at 1 atmosphere corresponding to 120 is this state. Because you have exposed it to a pressure of 1 atmosphere, this is 100 degrees Celsius. So the liquid cannot exist. This is vapor. 1 atmosphere for H2O at 120 is the vapor state. So all the liquid will try to convert into vapor. But as the liquid converts into vapor, liquid converting into vapor will convert the sensible energy into latent energy. Because you are not supplying energy from outside, you have just opened the cooker. So the liquid converting into vapor is taking the energy from the remaining liquid to do so. Liquid converting into vapor is taking the energy from the remaining liquid to do so. So the remaining liquid sensible energy decreases. So the sensible energy, that is the temperature, decreases, and latent energy, where this sensible energy goes in, this sensible energy is utilized to convert some of the liquid into vapor. Got my point? I hope you have understood. See, these are very minute details. Many of you would have studied RAC through various books or various sources. But generally these things cannot be written because these are very minute details and these are based on a lot of things combined together. So it is very difficult to entirely explain these things in a very short time or in a very short text. But I have tried to make you understand here. Let us come back. Vapor was there. At what temperature, that we will discuss. We compressed the vapor to a higher pressure. Up to what pressure we should compress? We will see at what temperature we want to reject heat to the surroundings. surroundings is at, let us say 45 degrees Celsius, let us say 45. So we need to be above surrounding, let us say that is 55, we will maintain a gap of 10 degree. So by being above the surrounding, I want to reject heat. So if the refrigerant has to change phase, at 55, why phase change? Because during phase change your temperature is not changing, then also you are rejecting heat. So if the liquid has to change phase at 55 degrees Celsius, we will see the corresponding pressure from its property values. A lot of heat was rejected. This is the compression work. A lot of heat was rejected. This is heat rejection. Now we have liquid at high temperature and high pressure. Now comes the role of the throttling valve, that is the capillary tube. This liquid we will send in the capillary tube. We will send this liquid in the capillary tube. In the capillary tube, the pressure will drop. The drop in pressure, how much pressure to drop? What should be the length of the capillary tube? How to decide that? You should be clear at what temperature you want to bring the refrigerant to. I want to bring the refrigerant to minus 25 degrees Celsius. Suppose this is the freezer section. We just discussed this. Minus 15 is the temperature which I want to maintain. So I have to send the refrigerant at minus 25. If you want liquid refrigerant at minus 25, we will see the property tables for this refrigerant. Like for water, if you want temperature 100 for the liquid, if you don't want the liquid to be above 100, you should drop the pressure to 1 atmosphere. Liquid cannot be above 100. I want the refrigerant to be at minus 25. So there will be the property table data. So suppose corresponding to minus 25 degrees Celsius, there is some pressure at which, if the refrigerant is at this pressure, liquid cannot exist above minus 25. Suppose there is certain pressure. You see from the table value, you drop the pressure to that value. You don't have to do anything else. You simply drop the pressure in the throttling to that value. What will happen? When you drop the pressure to that value, as the pressure drops, liquid cannot remain at this high temperature. The pressure is reached to a value that liquid cannot remain above minus 25. So what will happen? Liquid will try to change into vapor. How much liquid will change into vapor? As the liquid is changing into vapor, the energy is going in the latent form. Energy is utilized in the phase change. From where this energy is coming? The sensible energy is being utilized. As in the earthen pot, the pots which we use to cool water in the summer, as the water evaporates, the remaining water cools down. Similarly, as the liquid changes into vapor, energy goes in the latent, temperature goes down. So till when? Till minus 25. Once minus 25 has been reached, at this pressure, once minus 25 has been reached, at this pressure, you can exist at minus 25, there is no problem. You can exist as liquid at minus 25, there is no problem. We have decided up to what pressure we should drop. So, we have taken a value of pressure at which you can exist at minus 25, not above that. So, the liquid will change into vapor. So, the resulted mixture will have some part of saturated liquid and some part of saturated vapor, some part of saturated liquid and some part of saturated vapor. Because we have mixture, some part is this, some part is this, the average entropy will come somewhere in between, because this is lesser entropy, this is higher entropy. So, average comes out. By wet region means what? Wet region means what? We have some saturated liquid, we have some saturated vapor. So, entropy in the wet region is the average. If you have more liquid, average is closer to this. If you have more vapor, average is closer to that. So, when we have dropped the pressure, the liquid has changed into vapor suddenly. How much? You have dropped the pressure to such a value that the liquid cannot exist above minus 25. So, the liquid converts into vapor continuously. It is called as flashing. Flashing means sudden conversion. Liquid converts into vapor, and till the entire mixture is at minus 25, the conversion continues. This is a very fast process. Because we are doing throttling, it is irreversible. So, entropy will be slightly higher than before. Entropy will be slightly higher than before, right? So, we have a resultant mixture at very low temperature and pressure, but the enthalpy will be same. Energy is not changing. Energy is not changing. One form of energy is converting into other form of energy. One form of energy is converting into other form of energy. Some of the people say, sir, friction will also be there. So, that will generate heat. Yes, that will generate heat. The heat generated due to the pressure drop, is also used for phase change. But that portion is very small. Some of the heat for phase change, some of the energy for phase change comes due to heat of friction. Some of the energy for phase change comes due to heat of friction, and the remaining energy for the phase change comes from sensible energy. Heat of friction is generated as the pressure drops. So, finally, the total energy before and after the throttling is almost same. So, we have at point 4 mixture of saturated liquid and saturated vapor. Now, this mixture is sent in the evaporator. This mixture is sent to a place from where you want to absorb heat. If you want to absorb heat from the freezer section of the refrigerator, this is the part which is the freezer section. If you talk about in the refrigerator, this is the freezer section. So, when you will send the liquid at very low temperature, that is minus 25, and the temperature in the refrigerator, inside the refrigerator, temperature here in the freezer section, when the refrigerant is flowing, is minus 25 or maybe above than that, minus 25 or above than that. So when the minus 25 degree refrigerant flows, it will continuously try to absorb heat from this place. As the heat is absorbed, as the heat is absorbed, the remaining liquid also converts into vapor. The remaining liquid also converts into vapor. So average shifts towards saturated vapor. Average shifts towards saturated vapor. So we are going towards saturated vapor. In the simplest cycle, when we reach the saturated vapor state, this is the heat absorbed, this is the refrigeration effect. So when we have reached the saturated vapor state, now we have a lot of energy. Temperature is less, but we have absorbed a lot of energy. Energy in the form of what? Latent heat. Because now we have vapor. Now we have vapor. Now we want to reject this heat. We have lot of energy, but the energy is at a very low temperature. And you want to reject this energy. Outside is at 45. What to do? You compress the vapor to such a pressure. Then when you start cooling down this vapor, it remains above 55, let us take a value of 55, it remains above 45, let us take a value 55. When you start cooling this vapor, the temperature remains 55 or above it, and the entire energy is rejected during this phase change. Now you understood why we increase pressure and why we decrease pressure? We decrease pressure when we want to convert sensible energy into latent energy, when we want to drop the temperature. Because phase change, pressure and temperature are linked to each other. When you want to reject heat, you take the vapor to a high pressure. You compress the vapor to a high pressure so that when you start rejecting the heat at this pressure, at this high pressure, when at constant pressure the heat rejection takes place, we are above surrounding and still we are able to reject a lot of energy, because vapor converting into liquid means all the latent energy you have rejected. Again, you will have high pressure, high temperature liquid, you drop the pressure, liquid converts into vapor, temperature goes very down. Again, you have very low temperature liquid, some part has already become vapor, some part is liquid, you send it to the evaporator, heat is absorbed at constant pressure, the remaining liquid also converts into vapor. So we have absorbed a lot of energy, we want to reject energy, but surrounding is at 45, we are at minus 25. What to do? Compress this. Increase the pressure to such a value. That now when you reject heat at constant pressure, you don't go below 55. Your phase change takes place at 55, which is above this, and you are able to reject all the energy. So because now we will do a lot of discussion based on vapor compression refrigeration system, we'll solve a lot of problems based on this. So I hope you have understood how to obtain cooling. Now let us come back to the problem. So here we have this problem. We understood the entire theoretical understanding, and basically see, because we have all the systems around us working on vapor compression refrigeration system. So apart from solving the problem, as an engineer also you should know that how we have developed this system to obtain cooling. Once we are sure about it, we can very much appreciate the problem part also. So this problem which we read before understanding the entire explanation. So it was a vapor compression having CO2 refrigerant operates between the pressure limits of lower and higher pressure limit is given. The liquid in the condenser gets cooled to 15 degrees Celsius. So let me draw this situation on the TS diagram. So suppose this is the TS diagram and this is the saturation curve. Fine. In this, it is mentioned this system is assumed to work on wet compression. Wet compression with x is equals to 0.9. That means when the compression starts, it starts from somewhere here. This is point 1 with x1 is equals to 0.9. So we have isentropic compression. We have isentropic compression up to the higher pressure. Then we have constant pressure heat rejection. So let us see, when we start compression, this is the lower pressure limit, 22.68 bar. So 22.68, the temperature is given, this is minus 15. So this is minus 15 degrees Celsius, right? And the pressure is 22.68 bar, 22.68 bar. This is the pressure. Now the higher pressure is given to be 64.32 bar. 64.32 bar. So this is 64.32 bar. This is the higher pressure. Now, corresponding to this higher pressure, let us see the phase change temperature, saturation temperature. 64.32, phase change is at 25. Phase change takes place at 25 plus 25 degrees Celsius. This is the phase change temperature. But if you read the question properly, what they have said, vapor compression having CO2 operates between, these are the pressure values. The liquid in the condenser gets cooled to 15 degrees Celsius. That means when the liquid is cooling, even after getting saturated liquid, even after becoming saturated liquid, it is further getting cooled. It is further getting cooled to plus 15 degrees Celsius. So there is subcooling also. There is subcooling also. Then it will get throttled. That is, suppose if this is 1, this is 2, and this is, let us say, 3. So this point will become 4. 4, it will enter the space from wherever heat has to be absorbed. So this is 4 to 1. While explaining whatever conditions I took, those were the conditions, examples which I took based on what is the, in the domestic refrigerator generally we take. Here this is the problem, the conditions that are given in the problem. This is 3 to 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if we have to solve things on this, we should know at all the points the enthalpy. This is 0.3, this is 0.2, this is 1, this is 4. This is, let us say, 3 dash, and this is, let us say, 2 dash. So we should know enthalpy at all the points. Why we should know that? You will understand when we will calculate. But our focus should be calculating the enthalpy at 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, we will start with 1. How to find out the enthalpy at 1? We can say here H1 is in the wet region, can be taken as HF plus X1 into Hg minus H1, Hg minus HF, Hg minus, sorry, HF. So H1 we have to calculate. Corresponding to this temperature, this will be Hg, this will be HF. Data is given in the table. Corresponding to this lower pressure, we can see here. Corresponding to this lower pressure, 22.68, we have the data HF, Hg, 49.62 and 322.86. We also know the dryness fraction, 0.9. So HF is 49.62 plus 0.9 into Hg minus HF. So Hg, I have written down the values, so I am seeing from here 322.86, 22.86 minus HF, that is this, so minus this value. So we can find out H1, you can calculate the value of H1, it comes out to be 295.536, 295.536 kilojoule per kilogram. So we know H1, right? If we have to know enthalpy at point 2, we should know the temperature at point 2 because it is in the superheated region. How to know the temperature? There is one step which will be very commonly used. 1 to 2 is isentropic compression. So entropy will be constant. So we can say here 1 to 2, we can say S1 is equals to S2. S1 is equals to S2. How to find out S1? It is in the wet region. So it is in the wet region, we can write SF plus X1 into Sg minus SF. This is the formula for the wet region, is equals to S2. S2, we have already understood the formula in the superheated region. S2 is equals to S2 dash plus Cp vapor into ln T2 upon T2 dash. So this is the equation. One point is at lower temperature and lower pressure. So we know the values from the data, we can see here. Corresponding to this pressure, 22.68 minus 15 temperature, this is SF 0.1976, this is SG 1.2567. We can keep the values. So SF 0.1976, this SF and this SF 0.1976. Dryness fraction we already know is 0.9 for 0.1. Sg, this value also we know, you can see from the table, I am writing it 1.2567, 1.2567, right? These are the values. Then S2 dash, Sg, that is saturated vapor, corresponding to this pressure 64.32. Corresponding to 64.32 SG 0.9912. So 0.9912. This is 0.9912. CP vapor. This is given here in the data. 2.4. Heat of CO2, specific heat of CO2 vapor, 2.4. 2.4. T2 dash. T2 dash, this temperature. This is the phase change temperature, 25. Kelvin we can write 298. 298 Kelvin. Right? So we have all the values here. You can calculate the temperature T2 from here. Therefore we can get T2 value. T2 comes out to be 318.489 Kelvin. This is the value of T2. Why we calculated T2? If we know T2, we can find out the value of H2. So we can write H2 value now. H2 is equals to, see, H2 minus H2 dash is equals to superheated region, Cp dt, pressure is constant, Cp vapor into dt. So H2 equal to H2 dash plus Cp vapor into dt, difference of temperature. So T2 minus T2 dash, H2 dash is, see here, H2 dash is Hg, saturated vapor, at plus 25, that is higher pressure, plus 25, Hg 283.63, 283.63 plus Cp vapor, we already know 2.4, into T2 minus T2 dash at temperature T2 minus T2 dash. So T2 dash is 25, that is in Kelvin 298, adding 273. So T2 minus T2 dash, we already know T2, 318 point this 489 minus T2 dash is 25, that is 298. So we can find out the value of H2 from here. H2 you can calculate using this equation. I will write the value for H2 is 332.803. 332.803 kilojoule per kilogram. Right? So we got the value for 1, 2. Now 1 to 2 compression, 2 to this 3 is heat rejection in the condenser. 2 to 2 dash superheated region, temperature is decreasing. 2 dash to 3 dash phase change. 3 dash to 3 liquid, when you will reject heat, temperature will decrease. So 2 enthalpy we know, 3 enthalpy we need to know. 3 and 4 is throttling. So if we know 3, we know 4 also. Throttling is isenthalpic. So we need to know the enthalpy at point 3. See, H3. I want to write H3. At point 3, the pressure is 64.32. The temperature is 15. We have some data corresponding to 15. but we have data corresponding to 15, but 15 degree data is not at 64.32 pressure. This data is not for this pressure. This data is for this pressure. Moreover, we don't know Cp for liquid. In the question they have not mentioned. They have not given specific heat for liquid. If we would have known specific heat of liquid, we could have easily said H3 dash minus H3, pressure is constant, Cp into dT, but Cp of liquid for CO2, this is CO2, that is not known. So what to do in this case? So here I am going to make a point which you should understand. See, when we draw the TS diagram, we draw constant pressure curves on it. This is, let me take the pressure value to be, which is given here, 64.32 and 50.92. These two pressure values I am taking, 64 point something and 50 point something. So 64.32 and 50 point something. So when we draw the constant pressure curves in the liquid region, this is the subcooled liquid region, some of the books show the curves like this. Some of the books will show the curves like this, but some of the books, if you see, they will show the curves like this. In this region, they will show the curves like this, almost coinciding with the saturated liquid part. So what is correct? See, if we see the experimental data, so the constant pressure curves in the liquid region, are almost coinciding with the saturated liquid curve, almost coinciding with this, like this. But then how to separately know that this is 50 or this is a point on 50 or 64? How to know which pressure point is this? So for our visualization, what we do, we distort the curve and we make it like this. So most of the books are making the curves like this. We are also making it like this for the visualization purpose. But you should know, in the liquid region, the enthalpy, which is U plus PV, internal energy is dependent on temperature only for the liquid. Internal energy is dependent on the temperature only. This is a function of temperature. Why? Because liquid is incompressible. So we have seen du equal to mCv dt, constant volume. If the volume is constant, no matter what the substance is, whether it is an ideal gas or not, the internal energy change is dependent only on temperature, right? Even if you don't know this, you should remember this. Liquid internal energy is dependent on temperature. This is PV. In case of liquid, the specific volume is very less. Therefore, PV terms are almost negligible. They are almost negligible. If the pressure is not very, very high. these terms are mostly negligible terms because the specific volume is very less. So therefore, if you see the data in the tables also, they will write HF and UF. You will see almost HF is equals to UF because saturated liquid data is given in the table. Subcooled, it is not mentioned generally, right? So almost the enthalpy and internal energy is same. That means if you want to see the value at 15 degrees Celsius, you want to see for 64.32 pressure, the phase change was at 25, but we have to see the value at 15 degrees Celsius. We have to see the value at 15. Getting my point? Phase change is at 25 for this pressure. But after exiting the condenser, the point is this 15. So you should know the value at this. We need to know H3. See, we have to find H3. But at this pressure, 15 degree data is not given. 15 degree data is given. 15 degree data is given. If you see, 15 degree data is given. But for this pressure, so for this pressure, this data HF is given. So we know this and we need to know this, right? Because here and here temperature is same. So I told you the points are shown like this, but actually these curves will be almost here, almost at the same point, almost at the same point. For both these cases, internal energy is almost same because they are at same temperature. Internal energy is almost same. The pressure is different. But the PV term is so negligible. That it hardly makes an effect on the enthalpy part. There is no effect on the enthalpy part. Almost negligible. So you can say, if we want to know the data for this and they have not given the Cp for liquid, so we cannot calculate from this route. So what we are doing, we are assuming the enthalpy at this point and this point is almost same. So we are taking this data to be equal to this data. Why? Because practically the curves are passing like this, almost coinciding points, almost. The difference is negligible. Liquid internal energy is a function of temperature only. If temperature is same, internal energy is same. And we know now one more thing. Enthalpy is almost dependent on the temperature only because PV part is negligible. Why PV part is negligible? Because liquid specific volume is negligible. So if the temperature is same, enthalpy is almost same. So what I am doing? I needed this 15 degrees Celsius. So I know this value at another pressure, which is 50 point something. The value is 50.92. So I am using this value for this. Got my point? So this is why I have selected this question, that when a question is given to you, this point can bother you somewhere. So H3 is known to us now. We will write the H3 127.75. How? For this pressure, HF 127.75. For this pressure, HF 127.75. So I'll write the value here. H3 now is known to be 127.75 kilojoule per kg. right? So we have this H3. Now H4 is also equal to H3. H4 is also equal to H3, which is equal to this. So we know enthalpy at all the points. What we have to solve? Let us see the problem. What we have to solve. So in this problem, we have to solve, I think I forgot to mention here what we have to solve. So we have to calculate the COP. So I'll write it here. We have to calculate the COP. Okay? So we'll calculate the COP for this. First, we'll calculate the COP part. So how to find out the COP? COP is, so you can include it in the question, whatever we have to calculate. This I forgot to write because the entire screen was over. So COP is refrigeration effect upon work input. This is what we have to calculate. Refrigeration effect upon work input. Now let us see how to find out the refrigeration effect. So 4 to 1, you are absorbing heat from lower temperature. This is the refrigeration effect. Work input is 1 to 2. So this is H1 minus H4 refrigeration effect upon 1 to 2, that is H2 minus H1 is the work input in the compressor. From where we are getting these values? You can apply steady flow energy equation. For heat exchanger, you will get heat equal to enthalpy difference. You can apply steady flow energy equation for compressor, you will get work input equal to this. So we know all these values. Now we can simply write the value of COP. This comes out to be 4.502. 4.502. This is the value of COP. The next thing which we have to calculate, so I am mentioning here because it is not written in the problem, so you should know. Next thing which was asked is compressor work input, power input. Compressor power input. So how to know the power input? We should know the mass flow rate of the refrigerant, right? How many kilogram per second? Because I want to express the power input as kilojoule per second. So kilogram per second into work input, that is H2 minus H1. So this is the kilojoule per kg. This is the mass flow rate into enthalpy change. So enthalpies we know already. If I am able to find out this mass flow rate, I will be able to know the power input to the compressor. How to find out this? Let us see the problem. We have been given, what we have been given? Volumetric efficiency. This is given to us, volumetric efficiency. So we can use this data and the stroke volume and RPM, and we can calculate the mass flow rate. Let us see that. So if you remember the formula for volumetric efficiency, so volumetric efficiency is equal to, this is equals to mass flow rate, if the mass flow rate is in kilogram per second, this mass flow rate into the specific volume V1, that is entry to the compressor, specific volume at the entry to the compressor, this V1. This will be in meter cube per kg. Meter cube per kg. So what we are getting? We are getting how much volume is entering. This is the actual data. How much volume we are is entering in the compressor per second, right? Then this is the actual volume entering divided by what is the swept volume. So pi by 4 into d square, this is the area of the piston into stroke length L. So this much volume is swept meter cube per revolution. This much volume is swept for the suction in one revolution, right? So into number of revolution per minute n divided by 60. So what we will get? Number of revolutions per second. Because this data is data of the cycle, the mass flowing in the cycle, this data is for a single cylinder. So if we have k number of cylinders, if nothing is mentioned, we assume 1. Suppose if we have 2 cylinders, so we have to multiply with 2. But here nothing is mentioned, we take 1. If the cylinder is double acting, so one cylinder gives the effect of 2. So if one double acting cylinder, you can take k equal to 2. 2 double acting cylinder, each gives effect of 2. So 2 plus 2, 4. But here we are taking it 1. So we will keep the values. What is our purpose? We want to calculate this. So volumetric efficiency is given to be 0.85. We have just seen in the data. 0.85 is equals to mass flow rate. We need to calculate in kilogram per second. We need to know this into specific volume V1. So V1 should be known. V1 is Vf plus x1 into Vg minus Vf. How I can write this? Because the point 1 here is in the wet region, corresponding to minus 15. This point 1 is in the wet region. So we can say here corresponding to minus 15, we can see this data Vf. So we have corresponding to minus 15, we have Vf 0.00101. So I'll take 0.001 only. This is very small value. 0.001. Vf is 0.001. 01 is also there, but it is negligible. Dryness fraction we know 0.9 entry to the compressor. Vg. So corresponding to minus 15, Vg 0.0166. 0.0166. This is the value of Vg. So we know Vf from here. V1 from here. So we can find out V1. The value of V1, I will write the value coming out to be 0.0150. 0.015, it is 0.4 meter cube per kg. Right? So we know this value of V1. Why we were calculating? We have to keep here and calculate mass flow rate. So 0.01504. This is 0.01504 upon, this is volume swept per revolution. Swept volume per revolution. So let us see what has been given in the problem. Stroke volume, that is in one stroke. So if we see the reciprocating compressor, so in one revolution there is one suction stroke and half of the revolution goes in the suction part, then the other half is the compression and discharge part. So one revolution has one suction. So suction stroke volume, that is in one revolution, this much volume can be swept, 500 centimeter cube, 500 cc. So we can write this as this 500 into, because it is in centimeter cube, to convert it into meter cube 10 to the power minus 6. So this much meter cube per suction stroke, and in one revolution, one suction stroke. So per revolution into n number of revolutions per minute, that is also given 500 rpm. So 500 divided by 60, 500 divided by 60. So this is the 500 upon 60. Now number of cylinder, that is 1, nothing is mentioned, so we will take it to be 1, right. So I will write the values directly. The mass flow rate comes out to be 0.2354. Mass flow rate comes out to be 0.2354. This is kilogram per second. This is the mass flow rate. So we can write the power input. This is the mass flow rate into H2 minus H1. H2 minus H1. So we can keep the mass flow rate H2 H1 and we can get the power input also. So this is 8.772 kilowatt. So this is the power input. So three things have been asked in the problem, three things: mass flow rate, power input and refrigeration capacity. Refrigeration capacity. How to find out refrigeration capacity? Mass flow rate, refrigeration capacity is in kilojoule per second. This is in kilogram per second into how much heat can be absorbed per kilogram of the refrigerant. So this is H1 minus H4. How I can write this? I will show you. Kilojoule per kilogram. This is the heat absorbed per kilogram in the evaporator. See, let us see it on the diagram. So we have the diagram here. 4 to 1. So H1 minus H4. Right? This is the heat absorbed in the evaporator. So we'll write this. Heat absorbed in the evaporator, H1 minus H4. So this we have calculated. M dot, I'll write the value 0.2354. These values we have already calculated. I'll write the value 295.536. 295.536 minus 127.75. 7.75, and the value comes out to be 39.496. 39.496 kilowatt. So this will be our final answer. We have understood a lot through this discussion. Next problem also, whatever we will solve on the VCRS.